yeah? Oh yeah, can't you feel it, girl?
I'm milling about with Todd Flaherty, and he is the writer, director, and star of Chrissy Judy. Hey, Todd.
Hi, how are you? Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, I love this film so
Oh,
much.
thank you so much. I loved making it.
Oh, I bet. You look like you had such a great time.
It was the experience of a lifetime, really. I can die happy now. Yeah.
Where are you zooming in from?
I live in Provincetown, Massachusetts, on Cape Cod. So that's where the third act of the film takes place. And I moved up here a couple years ago during the pandemic, and I was only supposed to be here for 3 months, and I haven't left yet. So I think this is home base for a while.
Do you know I have such a soulful connection to Provincetown?
Oh.
I used to go there in the 80s and
Mm.
dance my ass off in the clubs and just loved it, loved it, loved it. I was actually really friendly with Jimmy James.
Oh, okay. Cool, cool, cool. Wait, they're still here, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. In
Okay.
fact, there's a Marilyn Monroe project, but I digress.
Okay.
Let's talk about you.
Okay.
So tell me the inspiration for the film.
Yeah. So I always hesitate to say that the film is autobiographical, but they do say write what you know. So I started writing this in 2018 when I moved to Philadelphia after living in New York for about 13 years. So for viewers who haven't watched the film yet, the story is about two drag sisters who have this drag duo, and they're best friends. And Chrissy decides to leave New York to pursue a romantic partnership in Philadelphia, leaving Judy behind in New York to kind of carve out his own path. Um, and so,
Mistake. Anyway,
yeah, what's that?
mistake.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So yeah, I think the inspiration just started there. I was in Philadelphia and I wanted to explore this idea of queer friendships and queer chosen family, which I really hadn't seen shown on film too much. I love queer cinema, and I think that we have this amazing array of new films that are cropping up. And so I'm happy that this story of chosen family is like a part of this new wave of stories that we're telling.
Yeah, and Todd, it couldn't be any more important because right now we're going through such a horrible time, as
Yes.
you know, with drag queens being banned. So
Mhm.
talk about that importance of seeing the film.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I feel like when I was writing this, I also wanted to tell the story of a queer person trying to make queer art for queer people, which is very hard to do because it's such a niche market, and it really anytime that I have queer friends who are making art, it's oftentimes a labor of love. And when I was writing it, I wanted to tell the story of a queer performer, and I just thought drag was the queerest art form we had. And I had never done drag before, but I really delved into the art form and had an even more intense love for it than I had just as a spectator. And I think it's so crazy how it's become even more topical in the last year or two. We premiered at the Provincetown International Film Festival right before going to Outfest last summer. And even then, the climate around drag culture wasn't as toxic as it is just a couple months later. So I hope that people will see this film and get a window into what it is to live this lifestyle and have this passion and have this drive for this type of work, because it really has nothing to do with any sort of like demonic behavior. It's really just an expression of self,
It's
and it's an
performance
extension of that.
art.
It's performance art. Yeah. Yeah, and I love that the film really explores someone who's trying to find their authentic voice behind this makeup and under a wig, and behind these jewels, and there's like this freedom and this liberation in exploring your own voice behind this facade that helps you kind of like free yourself from like the fear of messing up or doing a bad job, because you can always kind of like push through that and try again and say like, well, this is a character that I'm exploring. It's not me, this person.
Well, did you always know you would look so gorgeous as a woman?
I had high hopes. Yeah, when I started writing this and I knew that I wanted to play Judy, I quickly enlisted the help of a friend of mine who's an excellent drag performer. And I was like, before I really commit to doing this, I want to make sure that I at least don't look like, there's a really wonderful drag queen in Provincetown named Dina Martina who purposefully, has like a hairy back and like big, terrible makeup. And I was like, I don't think Judy is a Dina Martina type. So let's make sure I don't look terrible in drag. But thank you.
So talk about her look, talk about designing her makeup. And then what I loved about this is that you actually watch her putting her makeup on, which is so beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, again, in that exploration of someone who's discovering themselves behind a facade, I think what I wanted to explore in Judy is someone who has an affinity for like a bygone era. And Judy wants to be a torch song singer, and that's not something that anyone can easily do, let alone a drag queen in this world. So the look was really inspired by the evolution of Judy's look. Is meant to emulate certain queer icons. So at the start, Judy's pulling from looks that are more disco inspired to kind of match Chrissy's energy. But then once Judy's solo, the first time we see her, she's in a replica of a Judy Garland look. And then it evolves to the end until we sort of see her in this like homage to Barbra Streisand. And all of this is just a tie-in looks from one of the great female impersonators. Oh my God, whose name is escaping me? Jim Bailey,
Oh yeah.
who was like a huge performer in the 60s and 70s who kind of idolized and worshiped these women. And I think that's kind of what we were trying to emulate in the looks as they progressed on.
So how tricky was it for you to apply her makeup?
That came with a lot of practice. The first time I had my makeup done, I was like, oh, I think I can recreate this. And very fortunately, when I was writing it, someone offered me a job working the door of a nightclub in drag. And that gave me practice really quick for 6 weeks to be, really honing my craft in that way. Because the first time you put yourself in drag, it does not look great. And it didn't for a while. But then I figured out like my shapes and what worked well and what didn't. And also, we had the advantage of shooting in black and white. So I really, I like that the black and white quality of the film picks up all of the layers of the powder and the foundation. And I think that there's something to that. Oftentimes when we see drag, it's all about the color and the glitter. And I like that the black and white element lets us see all of the layers of the facade. And yeah,
And
it, it was a great exploration.
oh yeah, and you can sing.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I never really consider myself a singer, which is part of the reason why I chose these torch songs. My mother was an opera singer and my grandfather was a jazz pianist, so I grew up with that music. But as an actor in New York, I never really auditioned for musicals because I'm not, this pop tenor type of singer that we have acquired a taste for. So I tried to lean into songs that fit more in my range, and I think we were successful in that.
Yeah, so
We were
now you have a whole new career ahead of you.
I know, I know. I know. I have a lot of people who are like, well, who sang for you? People have known me for years. I was like, that's me. I was singing. They're like, oh, I didn't know you could sing. So yeah.
Yeah, so how does the community feel about what you've done in Provincetown?
It has been such an overwhelming experience. Like I said, I moved here in the summer of 2020. I didn't know anyone. And very quickly, I realized I had to start making friends. And I came up here on the heels of a pretty bad heartbreak and was just trying to, reconfigure some things and figure out my next move. And I quickly realized that this was just such an incredible space to thrive and to work on my art. And now, I can't go to the gym or the grocery store without someone stopping me and saying like, oh my God, I'm so excited for you. And this is so great. And it really, I think the town really loves how we captured Provincetown in a way that doesn't often get seen on film. And the importance of this space to the queer community and how it's been generationally a place that has really uplifted our community and our voice.
So did you actually shoot in locations in Provincetown when you give him permission?
Yes, so we shot for 10 days in New York over the course of like 2 or 3 weeks in June. And in New York, we were in Fire Island, in New York City, and Philadelphia, and New Jersey. So there were a lot of company moves, but it was just myself, my brother, who's a cinematographer, and my sister-in-law, who was our sound mixer. So we were a very small, COVID-friendly crew. And then we took a 2-month hiatus and came up to P-Town for about 6 days or 7 days in August and shot up here. And I had been living here for long enough that everyone was like, "What do you need? How can we help? You know, we want to help you realize this vision." And it was amazing. You know, no one said no to us for anything, and everyone just like welcomed us with open arms. And yeah, and since then a couple things have shot up here, which is nice to see that there's becoming like a very thriving film scene up here. It's a
As I,
beautiful place to shoot a movie or a TV show.
as I said, it's gorgeous. And
Yeah.
kudos to your brother, the cinematography.
I know. I know. Yeah, we've
Wow.
been working together for a long time, and just to see his work continually elevate to the next level and the next level. He's so immensely talented and humble on top of it. And yeah, we just have a great well, we shared a bedroom for like, 16 years. So we have a great shorthand. We know how to communicate well with one another. And I think we're both similar in that, whenever you're shooting something low budget, things happen. There were days where we lost a location for a night shoot at 12 in the afternoon. And in a larger company, it might be hard to start making decisions because everyone's got opinions, but really it was just the two of us saying like, okay, what makes the most sense and how can we take what we have and make it work for the story. And I was just really blessed to be able to work with him on this. I mean, he's as much a part of the creation of this as I am, and I really wouldn't have been able to do it without him.
Yeah. Now looking at you now, your mannerisms in the film so remind me of Dan Levy.
Oh yeah, I'll
Have
take
you
it.
ever gotten that?
I haven't actually, but I think it's because I have a friend who, honestly, when I'm out with him, people are like, "I love Schitt's Creek." He's like, "Thank you. I am not Dan Levy, but I appreciate that." So I think just because I hang out with someone who looks so much like him, I don't get that comparison often, but I will take it. He's amazing.
I know I was like racking my brain. Who does he remind me of? And then it popped in.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think he and I both have an affinity for playing that little like saucy character. It's a lot of fun to lean into that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So now why did you decide to shoot in black and white?
I knew from the second I started writing it that I wanted to shoot in black and white. I love black and white films. I think there's just something like inherently romantic about black and white films that I wanted to juxtapose with this story of friendship. And I also think there's something timeless about this story. We reference Dancer from the Dance, which is one of my favorite books, and it's a book from the 70s that also talks about a queer platonic friendship. And I remember the first time I read it thinking, wow, like this is just a huge part of our community that we don't touch on, this, like how we come of age with people. And so I chose black and white because I wanted to um, we use the device of cell phones and we mention social media very briefly, but other than that, we don't set the film in any sort of time period politically or with pop culture references. And so my hope is that people can watch this 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and not really know when it was made and that it still feels current then,
Mm.
hopefully. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So now you're a triple threat. You did all three. So
Yeah.
what were the scariest challenges of that?
Um, I think the hardest part was truly the hardest part is the writing. I think it's so hard to bare your soul and share that with people and pray that you're lucky enough that A, people resonate with the story that you're trying to tell, and B, that you find actors who can then insert their voice into the work and really directing was made so easy because of my brother, but also because we had Wyatt Fenner, who played Chrissy, who is one of the most remarkable actors I've ever met. Joey Taranto, who I've worked with a couple times before, who is such a genius, and James Tyson, who played Samoa, who just added this like absurdist comic flair. So everyone, there really wasn't any improv on set, and I think as a writer, you get nervous. Are people going to be able to take what's in your mind and what's on the page and bring it to life? And everyone did that so extraordinarily. So I was definitely had a lot of nerves about it. I think that was the hardest hurdle to get over. But then once all of those other things were in place, the rest was really kind of a breeze. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So of the three, where do you feel you have the most strengths?
I guess just because I've been acting for as long as I have, I worked in the New York theater scene for about 10 years. I feel most comfortable there in making choices and being bold. Um, I am having the most fun exploring the work of a director. That has been like the most rewarding experience of this process, is just really telling a story visually in a way that I hadn't done before. And the thing that I still struggle with the most is writing. I just finished writing my next feature, and every time you do a draft, you're like, is this horrible, or is there something here? I think there's something here, but I don't know. And the thing about writing is it's such a solitary experience, and you have to include other people in it to help you edit and hone the work. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's the hardest part, is the writing, for me at least.
So I'm excited. Tell me about this new feature.
So it's very early stages, but it's a sort of period piece that I'm setting in 96, which sounds crazy to call it a period piece.
It
But
is.
it's I know it is, yeah. But it's about a kid in fifth grade who's dealing with a bully, and how his life kind of gets flipped upside down when his favorite teacher gets fired after being outed. So I'm trying to explore how we place gender and sexuality on kids before they're ready to explore that for themselves, and the effect culturally that uh, we put on kids who haven't yet like found their voice. It's sort of like how we build the closet before we come out of it. So that's what I'm exploring right now. I don't know if I'll be able to find enough talented 10-year-olds to help me tell this story, but that's what I'm working on, and that's what I'm hoping to produce next. So
Well, you're in the New York theater scene, so you know a lot of like,
that's true.
kids.
There are so
They
many
annoy
talented
me
kids
to no end, but that's another story.
out. They're very bold, that's for sure.
But I love, Todd, that you're telling stories that are so poignant and meaningful, and yet they are akin to your own experience.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's the joy of being an artist and being a writer, is just trying to I experienced this with Chrissy Judy. The story is as much about sharing our experience as gay men and our friendships, as it is about exploring this own part of myself that's trying to figure things out. And so I think that's what I'm working on with my next film too, is like I'm trying to figure out like, a moment in time where maybe my light was dimmed, and how to explain that to people and how to explore it in film. And it's the hard work of being an artist, but it's also the joy of being an artist, is that exploration.
It must be very cathartic for you as
Oh
well.
yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that there is an element of catharsis, and of course, it's like diminishes your ego a little bit, which is a good thing. To constantly, go to those deep places and try to find answers for questions that you've had for years.
Hmm. Well, you are gorgeous inside and out. That's all I
Oh,
have
thank
to
you.
say.
Oh, thanks.
I am
Thanks.
I am a new fan.
Oh, good. I'm a fan of yours.
Oh, thank you. So tell everybody how they can see Chrissy Judy.
Yeah. So Chrissy Judy is having a limited theatrical run in the US. So we're open in LA on Friday, which is crazy, March 31st. Then we open in New York and San Francisco on the following Friday, April 7th. And then I believe we will be available on video on demand on all major platforms. I think April 4th is what I've been told. So yes, and you can buy a DVD too, which I was thrilled to hear. So there's plenty of
Those
ways.
things still exist.
Yes, they do, and I'm so glad they do. So yeah, just Google Chrissy Judy for showtimes if you want to see it in theater, and if you are not in one of those major cities, you can catch us video on demand next Tuesday, I believe. So it's really exciting. I'm so overjoyed that we get to have this experience of sharing this film with a larger audience, and I'm excited to see how people connect with it because you know, I made this just to tell my own story and to kind of help other people, other queer people see themselves. And it's been so rewarding to hear such a vast majority of audiences, gay, straight, and otherwise, who see themselves in it and say, like, I had this friendship and I had this experience, and it felt so meaningful, and I connected to it so much seeing it on screen. So I hope that we continue to have that effect with audiences.
Absolutely. It's a must-see. A must-see.
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. It was so lovely
It was
seeing
such a pleasure. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Okay, so come back when you're for your
Yes.
next
Yeah, hopefully it won't be too much longer.
done.
This number goes out to all of those good Judys. Thank God for them, right? Hit it!
Always news. Always refreshing. Always candid. Always milling about. Robin Milling delivers what celebrities are saying to you.